Olá, bom dia. Colemanson here with the Good Morning Portugal live stream with an update for you. I'm not sure if we are working. Oh, we are live on Facebook. I do beg your pardon. I've had a few technical challenges this morning. What I'm going to do is go into some detail here today about Portugal's mitigation phase update. And to do that, I'm going to share the screen with you for Safe Communities Portugal. We've had some great updates from a chap called Craig Morfitt, and in this last 24 hours, we've as of this morning, we've gone into the mitigation phase of dealing with the coronavirus, COVID-19 here in Portugal. And what I'm going to do is go back to the 25th. And then sort of bring you up to date from there on in. Okay, so let me just get that data up on the screen now, and we'll take a look through it together. Yeah, apologies for the late arrival, as it were, of this service, but a few challenges this morning and wanting to get the right information together for you as well today. And let's go back to the 25th of March there at 8 o'clock in the evening, and you can see from the Carnegie HQ at 1800 hours on Wednesday, March 25th, the Civil Protection National Emergency Plan, Duarte Costa, National Commander, National Emergency and Civil Protection Authority, gave a briefing on the Civil Protection National Emergency Plan, which was put into action on the 24th. 3 districts, Porto, Braga and Lisbon, are in orange alert given the extent of the pandemic in those areas. All 3 have high numbers of infected citizens and deaths and high incidences of risks. 10 other districts on the continent, excuse me, on the continent, including the Algarve Faro district, are in the yellow alert. Red is the maximum. And this is the heads up on, of the mitigation stage that is now in force as the pandemic was starting to grow as a result of community transmission rather than simply being imported into each of the districts. ANEPC resources are being mobilized to assist the National Health Directorate, the DGS, as the Public Health Pandemic Emergency Plan enters the mitigation stage. The mitigation stage is the highest level of alert and response under the Pandemic Emergency Plan as authorities work hard to fight the spread of the virus and minimize as much as possible the number of deaths. ANEPC will be working closely with district health and emergency services to support these efforts, particularly in the 3 orange alert districts. So to reiterate, Porto, Braga and Lisbon are the orange alert districts. And the call there again is to stay at home, okay? Fiquem casa. The National Commander closed the briefing by stressing how critical it is that everyone not involved in healthcare, emergency services, and the provision of essential goods and services stay at home. Each person that stays at home helps to break the contagion spread. Okay. So let's bring that forward then to this morning at 0800 hours. And yeah, there's two updates to share with you. At 8 o'clock, the COVID pandemic mitigation phase came into force at 8 o'clock in Portugal today, as determined by the DGS, involving the entire health system, public and private. The preparation of hospitals and health centres for COVID-19 is defined in a rule that establishes the model for approaching the person with suspected infection or with infection during the screening, referral and treatment of cases. The mitigation phase is the 3rd and most severe response to the COVID-19 disease and is activated when there is local transmission in a closed environment and or community transmission. The answer is focused on mitigating the effects of the disease and reducing its spread, namely by minimizing associated mortality. In this phase, light patients stay at home, moderates go to health centres, the serious but not critical are referred to hospitals, and criticals are hospitalised. Health centres and hospitals will have areas dedicated to the COVID-19 disease. In hospitals with paediatric services, it may be appropriate to reorganise services to dedicate hospital units exclusively to the treatment of patients with COVID-19 in paediatric age after the response capacity of the identified reference hospitals for the treatment of patients is exhausted. COVID-19 pediatric patients. I'm not sure I've made good sense of that, but I hope you get the gist of that. According to the DGS standard for the mitigation phase, people with suspected infection are tested for COVID-19. That is, those who present symptoms such as fever, persistent cough, or aggravated chronic cough, and difficulty breathing. However, in case it is not possible to test everyone with suspected COVID-19, DGS has defined a priority chain. First, it is patients with criteria for hospitalization. Second, newborns and pregnant women. Third, health professionals with symptoms. This is followed by patients with comorbidity such as asthmatics, heart failure, diabetics, chronic liver or kidney patients, people with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and patients with cancer. Or people with more fragile immunity and people in a situation of greater vulnerability, such as living in nursing homes or in convalescent units. Finally, people in close contact with these patients are tested. And then within the last hour, an update, and there'll be a bit of a repeat, I'm afraid, I think, of some of the information, but this is quite a sort of serious phase we're going into. Thought it'd be useful to give you this information. The situation report from Safe Communities Portugal at 0900 hours in the last hour. Duarte Costa, National Commander, National Emergency and Civil Protection Authority, ANEPC, gave a briefing on the Civil Protection National Emergency Plan, which was put into action yesterday. And there we go. The three districts on orange alert are mentioned again there: Porto, Braga, and Lisbon. I mean, we should all be staying at home, but there is a heightened sense of awareness and alertness in Porto, Braga, and Lisbon now. Excuse me. The health authorities in these regions have announced that anyone arriving in the following districts from abroad at a land, sea, or air border will be subject to mandatory self-quarantine for a period of 14 days. And this is quite crucial, I think, in the Algarve especially, where there seems to be quite a movement of people and quite a concern for people already living there. So people arriving in the Algarve, Faro district, need to self-quarantine for 14 days, as well as in the north, in Viana do Castelo, Braga, Villarreal, Bragança, Porto, Aveiro, and Viseu. Okay, so those districts, people need to self-quarantine for a period of 14 days. So spread the word about that, because there's a lot of information, isn't there? And you know, things get lost or misinterpreted, but that seems like a really key piece of information. Anyone arriving in the following districts from abroad at a land, sea, or air border will be subject to mandatory self-quarantine for a period of 14 days. And that's the Algarve, Faro district, the north, the districts of Viana do Castelo, Braga, Villarreal, Bragança, Porto, Aveiro, and Viseu. And of course, that's the district I'm in Aveiro, and there's a seaport here. As the pandemic has now been starting to grow as a result of community transmission, rather than simply by being imported into each of the districts, ANEPC resources are being mobilized to assist the DGS, the Public National Health Directorate, as the Public Health Pandemic Emergency Plan enters the mitigation stage. At midnight Thursday, March the 26th, that's midnight tonight, just this previous midnight, we've now moved into stage 3 of mitigation. The stage signals that the pandemic is now spreading mostly by contact within the community rather than by isolated cases originating from outside the community. This is the highest level of alert and response, and is also the most grave. Internally, the DGS will be modifying the way they fight the pandemic, which may cause some initial internal disruption in the way that the health system has been organized in the battle until now. DGS is confident that this expected challenge will be met. The mitigation stage is the highest level of alert and response under the pandemic emergency plan, as authorities work hard to fight the spread of the virus and minimize as much as possible the number of deaths. ANEPC will be working closely with district health and emergency services to support these efforts, particularly in the 3 orange alert districts. PSP and GNR have detained 39 people so far for disobedience of the state of emergency decreed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and closed 649 establishments for non-compliance. Well, announced the Ministry of Internal Administration, the MAI. In a statement, MAI states that the National Republican Guard and the PSP, the Public Security Police, have been developing since midnight on March the 22nd an intense activity awareness, surveillance and inspection among the population, in quotes, in compliance to the determinations of the decree that regulates the state of emergency. 12 policemen and 3 technicians without police functions are infected with the new coronavirus, and about 450 members of the Public Security Police are in quarantine, that security force said today. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Augusto Santos Silva, said yesterday that additional measures to support businesses and families will be approved by the Council of Ministers on Thursday, ensuring that those already approved will be on the ground as soon as possible. In addition to the measures that we have taken and continue to take in order to improve the response capacity of the National Health Service, we've also been taking, and we will take, measures to support the economy, companies and families again tomorrow, reinforced the minister. So that's the kind of more factual information there. My intention with this is, is to be here in the morning to give you the data, the information, and to inform you of key stages of development. And that certainly is one, this third stage of mitigation. I'll have a look as well, because as this live stream kind of tails off, it's an opportunity for people to share where they are in relation to this. And I've had a bit of a sort of disrupted service this morning trying to get on air, but my intention is to provide a platform for people to update from their part of the country and to make requests. And I see Stephanie in Faro District was making an appeal to help with food banks this morning. So I think tomorrow, when we're in better technical shape, we will put those requests on screen, and we will be a better service, if you like, in regards of connecting up the community. But the key message this morning, obviously, is to stay at home and allow the people directly involved in mitigation of the coronavirus, COVID-19 in Portugal, to get on with their work, and for the rest of us to stay out of the way, avoid the virus, and avoid being in the way of the most important priority work right now. So I think I'll leave it there for this morning, and hope to be with you at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning with an improved sort of technical service, so that we can talk to each other on the screen if necessary, if people want to come and join me on screen. Also, yes, a sort of point of order. Someone did point out yesterday to me that I was becoming a little bit political, and I'd actually made a sort of an off comment about the President of the United States, and I totally accept that. It was in the wrong place. The idea here is to give you factual information, and not for it to be coloured and opinionated by my prejudices or whatever. Had that said, I do want this to be a service where people can speak freely, but that's, it's about compartmentalizing that. The first part of the live stream is the information, and the second part, or the concluding part, is where we can talk more freely. And I've no problem there with people offering their opinions, letting off steam, because I think that actually that's a vital part of what's going on at the moment, is that people do need to be able to speak, get things off their chest, in a sort of, certainly in a civilized and respectful way if possible. But as you know, as is kept being said, we're all in this together, and we're all only human, and we will have situations where we will make mistakes and lose it, so to speak, but we can come back as well and support each other. And I think that's a really important thing in a crisis, is to recognize that we are only human. Things will slip, and we will help each other get back on our feet in all sorts of ways, in every way that phrase means. So apologies for colouring the data with my opinions yesterday. I will make sure from now on that they're in the right place. I wish you a good day and good health, and to hope that you are coping well with the quarantine, and wishing you well and thanking you if you're involved in the frontline activities in dealing with this pretty horrific situation. And the part of the horror of it, of course, is so many unknowns and so many fears and anxieties around it. And I'm very grateful to you, and I'm sure speak on behalf of the Good Morning Portugal community here. If you're involved in frontline work, thank you so much for doing that, and let us know how we can support you as well. So I will leave it there for today, and see you again tomorrow, hopefully at 9 o'clock, with a platform that's more conducive to community sharing. So take care, and